Sometimes when you watch a show you get a surprise, and I don't mean like a shocking reveal or a character dying horribly. No, sometimes you watch something and enjoy it way more than you were expecting. Then you discover the horrible truth that no one is talking about it. Spectre is one of those shows for me. It's an anime that surprisingly has 2 seasons and follows the detective work of Kotoko Iwanaga and her boyfriend Kuro Sakuragawa. Do you get the title of the anime now? Spectre, like Inspector, like Sherlock Holmes or Inspector Gadget. And if you're as smart as either of those two, then you may have been able to work out that since it's Spectre, like a ghost, then our 2 leads are working on some paranormal investigations. Kotoko is the goddess of wisdom, so while still human, many spirits come to her seeking advice and aid with any of their problems, and any humans who have affairs with the supernatural often come her way too. Kotoko is a fantastic protagonist in my opinion, and is actually one of my favourite anime characters. Considering she's the goddess of wisdom, it should come as no surprise that Kotoko is extremely clever. I often found myself really enthralled by how she solved the mysteries. It is possible that this show has plot holes or leaps in logic, but Kotoko was always able to deliver her findings in such a way that I always bought what she was saying. I could see how she had come to her conclusions on each of her investigations, and therefore I always felt like she knew what she was talking about, even in the times that she doesn't. Without spoiling any of the episodes, sometimes Kotoko lies. That's why I say there might be plot holes or moments that don't make sense, because even when Kotoko was fabricating an entire story out of thin air, I still believed her. So it's entirely possible that if you would scrutinise each of the cases in this anime under a microscope, then they may fall apart completely, but I doubt anyone would do that. However, despite being so clearly intelligent, it's unlikely that you will walk away from this character with that being the first thing that pops into your head when you think of her. See, Kotoko is extremely clingy to her boyfriend and very sex positive. If she's not solving a case, then she's talking about how much she wants to bang her boyfriend. Honestly, it was very refreshing to have a female character talk like this. Usually, I'm used to seeing a lot of male characters talk about how horny they are and how they want to get laid, so it was actually pretty interesting to see it come from the opposite sex. It helps that the person that she's obsessed with is her actual boyfriend and not some random character in the show. It's not just how often she talks about sex, but how she actually talks about it too. There are some moments in this anime where she'll say something that makes you do a double take.
Naturally, we'd like to enjoy the time we have here. I'm particularly excited about the massive bath in the room we're staying in. It's big enough for us to get in together, and he can wash his fingers in my vagina. Apologies.
Yeah, she actually said that. That wasn't a fan dub or even a mistranslation. That's actually how her character is in this show. Her vulgarity is her defining characteristic, and in case you're wondering, the other characters in the show do take notice of it and comment about it too. In fact, for the human characters, she's often described as awful. In the human world, she is unpopular because of how she talks. In the spirit world though, she's the goddess of wisdom. They worship her and look to her for support, but most humans don't know that about her and so find her unappealing. The reason I find it refreshing is because it's nice to see a character so forward about what they want, even if they could maybe phrase what they want a little bit better.
まあ、そう言わずに食べてください。人間らしく食べていた方が、サキさんも安心するでしょう。私は後でクロウ先輩のバナナを食べさせていただければ。
On top of her high intelligence and penchant for saying some of the wildest stuff I've ever heard in an anime, Kotoko is disabled. Kotoko may be the goddess of wisdom, but it came at a price. Kotoko was abducted by yokai at the age of 11 and agreed to become a mediator between the human and the spirit world, but in exchange she lost her right eye and her left leg. So in the anime she walks with a cane to help her walk on a prosthetic leg and has a glass eye in place of where a real one should be. It never defines her character, but it's something that really adds to her uniqueness. I especially love her character design too. She looks like a doll and it perfectly fits the odd vibe that accompanies her. My liking of her character is not unique to me, as when compared with the popularity of her series, she's quite a hit with fans. Just look at how many people have her as their favourite character on my anime list. Compare that to the characters in an underrated anime that you like. Honestly, it's good that Kotoko is such a great character, because it's only her and Kuro that we follow throughout the series, and Kuro is nowhere near as interesting as Kotoko. Again, let's look at my anime list and see how popular he is compared to Kotoko. Kuro kind of occupies the straight man role to Kotoko's more shocking personality. Even when she's fawning over him, he shows little emotion. In fact, he seems quite disinterested in his girlfriend, to her much stated sadness. Truthfully, there isn't much to Kuro's character. He usually just stands there and shuts Kotoko up during the cases when she goes off the rails and goes into too much detail about their sex life.
時期に20歳になろうっていうのに乙女はないだろ
う。そりゃあ先輩のおかげで乙女ではありませんが。
He's basically the muscle to Kotoko's brains. Whilst his personality isn't much to talk about, he does have an interesting background and occasionally plays an integral part in some of the investigations. This is because Kuro is immortal. This is due to him at one point eating Kudan and Ninyo meat. So if there's anything especially dangerous, Kuro will take it on. And we do see him get put through the ringer a lot in this anime. It's not just immortality that Kuro has in his arsenal, but also the power of precognition. Kuro can slightly alter the future to a only if it's possible, better future. Funnily enough, that power comes at a price. What's the price? Well, he'll die if he uses it. So it's a good thing that he's immortal. Essentially, in terms of both characterization and use in the series, Kuro is the opposite of Kotoko. Heck, the human characters really like him because he's handsome, but the creatures of the spirit world can't stand him because he ate the flesh of a Kudan and a Ninyo. They literally find him repulsive to look at. Honestly, the most interesting thing to me about Kuro outside of his origins is that his Japanese voice actor is Mamoru Miyano. You know, Yagami Light's voice actor. In fact, this anime has a surprisingly stacked Japanese voice cast. I mean, Kotoko shares a voice with Nezuko, the second season has Awa Yuki in the cast, Saitama's and Lloyd's voice actors are in season 2 as well. Honestly, the two leads having such popular voice actors was probably one of the reasons this anime got a surprise second season. I say that it was a surprise for two reasons. The first is that this is an anime by Brainspace. If you don't know who Brainspace are, then I'll tell you because they are a good studio, but they are, at least to me, also a studio infamous for not making second seasons to some of their anime. For example, they animated the first season of My Romantic Comedy Snafu or Arigaru before its second and third seasons got animated by Studio Feel. They animated the first season of Durarara before the next 3 seasons were animated by Shuka. They animated My Little Monster, which never got a second season. They animated Baccano. Again, no second season, even though there is enough material to make a second season. They animated To Your Eternity. The second season got passed off to Studio Drive. They animated Bloodlad, no second season in sight. They animated the first 4 seasons of the highly acclaimed Natsume's Book of Friends before the next few seasons were passed off to Shuka like Durarara. I think you get the point. They don't really make sequels, and if an anime they make does get a sequel, they're not the ones that animate it. So I was surprised when it was first announced that Spectre was getting a second season, and I was even more surprised to learn that Brainspace was returning to animate it. This is almost unprecedented. The other reason that I say that it was a surprise is because Inspector's first season was not as popular as any of the other anime that I just mentioned, and on top of that, Inspector's first season wasn't that well received. In fact, if there was only one season of this anime, then I would not be recommending it to you. The first season isn't great, but the second is significantly better, and you kind of have to slog through the first season to get to the much better second one. So why is the first season not that great? Well, it's mainly because this is a detective show, and like any detective show, the inspectors deal with multiple cases across the show, and that's true for Inspector as well. However, the problem with the first season is that they only deal with, I believe, 2 cases. The first one isn't an issue, it's the second one that's the problem. Inspector Season 1 is only 12 episodes. 10 of those 12 episodes are dedicated to one case. Unfortunately, it leads to that case feeling really dragged out, and sadly it isn't interesting enough that everyone will be able to stick through it. In fact, I really like this anime and even I didn't enjoy sitting through these episodes. But fortunately, Season 2 is much better. I don't know the exact number of cases that we experienced in Season 2, but I believe it's like 6 or 7. Much more than the first season, especially as Season 2 is also 12 episodes. A couple of the cases even get resolved in one episode. Some are a bit more complicated, but none of them get as dragged out as much as the second story from Season 1. This really rectifies the main issue with the first season. The pacing is much better in the second season, and since we're not bogged down on one specific investigation, the lead characters get more opportunity to shine outside of sleuthing. Another aspect to having several different cases is that they come with several different characters. Some of the supporting characters, I'm thinking of one story in particular, are great. Not all of them are, but if there's any characters you don't like, you don't have to worry because they won't be sticking around for long. And as I've made clear, this anime has a great main character for us to follow. The reason why the second season is so good is because it doesn't outstay its welcome, and I really do hope that we get a surprise third season. Now that I've discussed the characters and not really the story, since the story depends on the episode, let's move on to some of the more technical things in this anime, like the voice acting. Like I said, the Japanese cast for this anime is stacked, but I actually watched this anime in the English dub. Now this isn't an English dub on the level of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but it is good in my opinion. Not every voice actor is of equal calibre, but like a case that you don't like, you don't need to worry because like the character that the voice is attached to, you won't have to listen to them for too long. This dub only really needed to nail its two leads, and it does so in my opinion, especially Lizzie Freeman as Kotoko. It should be pretty clear that a lot of my personal enjoyment of this anime comes from Kotoko's character. That wouldn't be the case if Lizzie Freeman hadn't done such a great job at voicing the character. She nails every part of Kotoko, whether it be the vulgar parts of the character that I'm going to assume were very embarrassing for her to say in the booth, or the monologues where Kotoko lays out her well-crafted theories. Lizzie Freeman is perfect as the character, easily one of my favourite performances in an English dub. I really do hope that we get to hear more from her in the future. Whilst Brainspace are a good studio, I don't think Spectre is their best work. The animation isn't bad, in fact it's better than the average anime out there, but it won't be competing with the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen anytime soon. Not that that's an issue, but considering some of the anime they've made, I don't want to overhype this anime's animation, which is a lot more understated. The soundtrack for this anime isn't one of my favourites, and I'll be honest, I couldn't actually remember the soundtrack whilst I was making this video, but I had to listen to it again recently and I realised that it's a pretty good soundtrack. There's one or two tracks that when I was listening to I went, oh, I remember this one. So this anime does have a good soundtrack. I feel similarly about this anime's openings. Both of them are good and really fit the aesthetic of Spectre, but I'd be lying if I said they were among my favourites, although I could easily see them being other people's. However, I do like both the ending songs for this anime, which was sang by Yagami Light himself. Unsurprisingly, Mamoru Miyano has a good voice. Is there anything that I'm missing? No, I think that pretty much covers it. Spectre is not a must-watch anime. In fact, you could start this anime and then regret it once you get to the second case. But personally, I really enjoyed this anime's second season, a lot more than I expected after not being wowed by the first. I also think that this anime is worth watching just for Kotoko alone. She really is a good character in my opinion. Sadly, I doubt we'll get a third season even though I want it badly. That said, I never thought we'd get a second season, so who knows. Spectre became one of those anime that I just liked watching. It was a comforting anime and I'd really like to see more of it. Let's hope that Brainspace surprise us once again. If you enjoyed this video then please do leave a like and a comment too please. Have you seen Spectre? What did you think of it? Have you only watched the first season? What did you think of the Steel Lady arc? Also, what do you think about Kotoko? Let me know in the comments below and do subscribe too please. I'm hoping to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of 2024. I think we can do it. Anyway, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.